Welcome back, everyone. Today we're diving into one of the most, well, let's be honest, kind of tough, but super fascinating works of philosophy, Spinoza's Ethics.
Yeah, Spinoza, not exactly a light read.
No, definitely not. You sent over part 5, which is all about the path to freedom and blessedness, and I have to say, even for a deep dive, this one's pretty deep.
It is, but the insights in this section are so relevant to, how we actually live our lives.
Totally. And honestly, where else are you going to find a philosopher who lays out his arguments like geometric proofs?
Right. Spinoza's approach is definitely unique. He starts with all these definitions and axioms,
Oh yeah, I saw those.
and then he builds these propositions and offers these demonstrations. It's almost like he's proving a theorem, which, kind of makes sense when you think about it.
How so?
Well, this whole structure, it really reflects his deep belief in the power of reason. For Spinoza, reason isn't just some abstract concept. It's the key.
The key to...
Understanding ourselves, the universe, and ultimately achieving true freedom.
Okay, I'm starting to see where this is going. So let's start with that, with one of his most fundamental ideas. The idea that reason is the key to freedom. But what does he even mean by that? I mean, most people think of freedom as being able to do whatever they want, right?
Yep.
But Spinoza, he seems to have a different take.
He does. For Spinoza, it's not about, having total control over everything that happens to us or even, our emotions. We all know that's not really possible.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Exactly. Instead, he focuses on the power of understanding. It's through understanding that we get a sense of control, not by, suppressing or denying our emotions, but by really seeing them clearly, understanding their causes, and ultimately choosing how we respond to them.
So it's more about inner freedom than outer freedom. I might not be able to control if my flight gets delayed, but I can control how I react to it.
Exactly. You got it.
Yeah.
And that's actually where Spinoza's critique of Descartes comes in.
Oh, Descartes. Right.
Remember how Descartes was all about that pineal gland being the seat of the soul?
Oh, yeah, that mystical point of connection between our minds and bodies, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that from our deep dive on Descartes. It always kind of threw me off a bit, he's all about reason and logic, and then boom, this random gland.
Right, exactly. Well, Spinoza wasn't buying it. He saw it as a gap in Descartes' thinking, a reliance on occult qualities that didn't really fit with his whole emphasis on clear and distinct ideas.
Okay, so instead of looking for answers in some mysterious physical location, Spinoza's saying, hey, we should focus on the power of the mind itself.
Yes, specifically the power of understanding.
Okay, I'm with him so far. So true freedom for Spinoza lies in understanding how our minds work, how our emotions pop up, and how they connect to our thoughts and actions.
Yeah, you got it. And this is where his 3 kinds of knowledge become really important.
Okay, I am so intrigued. 3 kinds of knowledge. Tell me more.
Okay, so the first kind, he calls it knowledge from vague experience. And this is based on what he calls inadequate and confused ideas, things we just kind of pick up randomly,
Through our senses.
Exactly. Or stuff we hear from other people but never really question. It's like having all these puzzle pieces but no idea what the picture is supposed to be.
Ooh, that's a good analogy. I like that. So it's like having information, sure, but not really understanding what it means or how it fits together.
Exactly. And, I think we've all been there, right? Where we just have all this info swirling around but don't know what to do with it.
Oh, for sure. So what's next? What about the second kind of knowledge?
Yeah. Okay, so that one, he calls it knowledge from reason. And this one is based on adequate ideas, on understanding the common properties of things. This is where we start to see the connections, the underlying patterns and principles,
So it's less about just knowing a bunch of random facts and more about understanding the relationships between things.
Precisely. Cause and effect, the structure of reality. And this is where Spinoza's idea of understanding things as necessary comes in.
Necessary? In what sense?
He argues that when we understand how things are interconnected, how they come from this chain of causes, it can actually lessen the power emotions have over us.
Okay. Can you give me a real life example of that?
Sure. Let's say you lose something important to you. Initially, you're going to feel, sadness or anger, right? But if you can step back and see that loss as part of a bigger chain of events, as something that was maybe even inevitable given everything that happened.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
The intensity of those emotions might lessen.
That makes a lot of sense. It's not about denying the pain, but you're saying, understanding it in a bigger context.
Exactly. And that shift in perspective, it can be super liberating. It lets us detach from that immediate intensity of our emotions and respond in a more, measured, thoughtful way.
I like it. Okay, so the second kind of knowledge, it's all about understanding the big picture, how everything's connected.
Yeah, and it lays the groundwork for the third kind.
Oh, right. There's a third one, which is,
It's called intuitive knowledge. This is like the highest form of understanding, arising from this deep grasp of what Spinoza calls God or nature.
wow, that sounds pretty profound. But how do we even reach that level of understanding? Is that even possible for us, non-philosopher types?
Well, Spinoza believed that this third kind, it's not something we can just magically, attain overnight.
Yeah, right.
It comes from the second kind of knowledge, from that deep understanding of common properties and how things are connected. It's a process of, continually refining our understanding.
Got it. So we have to master the basic principles before we can grasp those deeper truths.
Exactly. It's a journey of growth and discovery. And for Spinoza, this journey, it's deeply connected to our pursuit of freedom and blessedness.
This is already giving me a lot to think about. What about you? What really stands out to you about Spinoza's approach to freedom and knowledge?
What fascinates me is how he takes these seemingly abstract concepts, like freedom and knowledge, and connects them to the very practical matter of how we live our lives. He's not just throwing out theories. He's giving us a roadmap.
A roadmap.
A roadmap for navigating the challenges of being human, and ultimately how to achieve this deep and lasting sense of peace and fulfillment.
I love that. That's what I love about this deep dive into Spinoza. It's not just this intellectual exercise. It's like an invitation to really examine our own lives, our beliefs, our choices, and to, see how we can use these insights to create a more meaningful and fulfilling existence.
I completely agree. And, that's what makes his work so relevant, even centuries after he wrote it. His ideas, they still challenge us. They inspire us to live more consciously, more intentionally, and ultimately more freely.
So we've been talking about, freedom and how it's all tied to understanding, but how does this all connect to actually living a good life? Does Spinoza give us any practical advice on how to actually achieve that freedom, that blessedness he's always talking about?
He does, yeah. And it really comes down to understanding and choosing what we love.
Yeah.
Spinoza distinguishes between two types of love.
Okay, I'm sensing a but coming.
Well, he talks about love guided by reason and love driven by passion.
I'm going to guess that he's not a big fan of passionate love.
Well, he definitely acknowledges that, passion is a powerful force, but he sees it as a less stable foundation for love. Passions, they're fleeting. They're dependent on external factors.
Yeah.
Think about those whirlwind romances, the ones that burn really brightly but then fizzle out super quickly.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Spinoza would say that's because they're based on superficial qualities, fleeting desires that aren't really grounded in a deep understanding of the other person.
I can see that. It's like when you first meet someone, you might be drawn to, their looks or their charm, but those things can fade, right?
Exactly.
And if there's no real substance beneath the surface, well, the relationship's probably not going to last.
Exactly. And that's why Spinoza puts so much emphasis on cultivating a love that's rooted in understanding.
So this doesn't mean we all have to be emotionless robots.
Right, exactly.
But that our love should be informed by reason.
Yeah, by a clear perception of the other person's character, their qualities.
So it's about choosing to love those things that are, I guess, actually worthy of our love. Things that, align with our values, things that actually contribute to our well-being.
You got it. It's about recognizing that not all objects of our love are created equal. Some will lead us to greater freedom and joy, while others, well, they might trap us in these cycles of, dependence and dissatisfaction.
This makes me think about all the different ways we try to find happiness, right? We chase after money, fame, possessions, relationships.
Okay.
We think they'll fill this void inside us. But Spinoza's saying, nope. True happiness comes from something much deeper.
Yes.
From aligning our love with what's actually good and valuable.
Exactly. And, you're hitting on a really key point here. Remember how he says that blessedness isn't the reward of virtue?
Yeah, I remember that.
It is virtue itself.
Whoa. Okay, so it's he's flipping the whole script on happiness.
Totally. It's not we do good things to earn some cosmic prize.
Yeah.
Instead, true happiness, it just arises naturally.
From living a virtuous life.
Yes.
Wow. So it's not about chasing those external rewards. It's about cultivating those inner qualities that lead to this sense of fulfillment, of well-being.
Exactly. And it's so closely tied to his idea of understanding things under the form of eternity.
Oh, yeah. It's eternity.
When we understand how everything's connected, when we see that bigger picture and our place within it,
Yeah.
our desires just they naturally shift. We start to prioritize things that contribute to the greater good.
Hmm.
Not just our own like immediate gratification.
So instead of getting caught up in those fleeting pleasures, those things that, ultimately leave us feeling empty, we should focus on things that have like real lasting value, things that nourish our souls, connect us to something bigger.
Exactly. It's about aligning our actions with our understanding of, what's actually good and valuable.
Yeah.
And when we do that, we experience this sense of inner harmony and fulfillment that like no external reward can match.
This is making me think about that contrast Spinoza draws between, the wise person and the ignorant person. The ignorant person just seems like they're stuck in this cycle of just reacting to their emotions, their desires, always chasing after things that never quite satisfy them.
Yeah, it's like they're a ship just like tossed about by the waves. They never find that safe harbor.
Right.
They lack that grounding and understanding that lets them navigate the challenges of life with a bit more grace, with resilience.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
It can be.
Yeah.
But that's like the whole point Spinoza is making, right?
Yeah.
The life of like the ignorant person, yeah, it might seem easier in the moment, but it's ultimately a life of suffering and dissatisfaction.
Right.
They're always at the mercy of their emotions, their desires, and they never really find true peace, true contentment.
Whereas the wise person, through their, commitment to understanding, to living in accordance with reason, they cultivate this like inner strength, this stability that allows them to deal with those tough times in life with, a bit more ease and grace.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
They understand that true happiness doesn't come from avoiding pain or difficulty,
Right.
but from facing them.
Yeah.
With courage, with understanding,
Yeah.
and seeing those tough times as like opportunities to grow, to learn.
It sounds like the wise person is living like a more intentional life, making choices based on what they understand to be good, to be valuable.
Absolutely. They're not just like reacting to whatever happens around them. They're shaping their lives. They're aligning their lives with their values, their purpose.
This reminds me of that powerful line from Spinoza that we talked about earlier, the one that says, the human mind can't be absolutely destroyed with the body,
Oh, yes.
but there remains something of it that's eternal.
Yes. And this is like where it all comes together. Spinoza is suggesting that by cultivating our understanding, by living in accordance with reason, we're not just shaping our present experience, but we're also nurturing that eternal aspect of ourselves.
It's like we're building something that lasts beyond our, our physical lifespan, like a legacy of wisdom, of virtue, of love that continues to, ripple outward even after we're gone.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And it's such a powerful reminder that our choices really matter, not just for us, but for the world around us for generations to come.
This has been so insightful. Spinoza, he's definitely challenging.
Oh, he is.
But he's also like so inspiring.
He is.
He's offering us this vision of being human that's both, grounded in reason, but also like filled with this sense of wonder, of possibility.
I completely agree. It's a vision that calls us to like step into our full potential, to live lives of meaning, of purpose, of joy, and to leave the world a little bit better than we found it.
And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up part 2 of our deep dive into Spinoza's ethics. We still have more to unpack, so stay tuned for part 3, where we'll explore how Spinoza's ideas about eternity, blessedness, and the wise person all weave together to paint this really compelling picture of a fulfilling life.
Okay, so ready to wrap up our deep dive into Spinoza's ethics. We've covered so much, like from the power of reason to understanding these different kinds of knowledge, and even, choosing what we love wisely. It's been quite a journey.
It has, but now I'm really curious, like, how does all of this come together in Spinoza's, vision of the good life? What does he see as the ultimate goal of, of being human?
Well, we've touched on it a bit with this idea of blessedness, but it goes even deeper. For Spinoza, that ultimate goal, it's to achieve this state of true freedom, this lasting joy. And he calls it blessedness. And this blessedness, like we've been saying, it's not some kind of external reward. It's not, some fleeting feeling. It's this inner state of being that comes from living in accordance with reason, with understanding.
So it's not about like achieving some specific outcome or, getting more stuff. It's about cultivating a certain way of being in the world.
Exactly. It's about aligning our thoughts, our emotions, our actions with the underlying order of the universe, with what Spinoza calls God or nature.
Hmm.
And this alignment, he argues, it leads to this really deep and lasting sense of peace, of joy, of fulfillment.
It's almost like finding our place in the grand scheme of things, like understanding our role in this cosmic dance and moving in harmony with it.
I love that. That's a beautiful way to put it.
Mm.
And it's really tied to this idea of understanding things,
Mhm.
under the form of eternity. And remember, this isn't about living forever in some literal sense.
Right.
It's about seeing beyond those limitations of, our individual perspectives and grasping these timeless truths that govern reality.
It's like, those moments where you have like a sudden insight or realization and everything just clicks into place. You feel like you're tapping into something so much like bigger than yourself, something
Yeah.
that transcends like the everyday worries and anxieties of life.
Exactly. Those moments, they offer us a glimpse of what it means to understand things under this form of eternity. And for Spinoza, like cultivating this kind of understanding, it's essential if we want to achieve that true freedom, that blessedness.
But he also says this is a challenging path, right?
He does.
He contrasts the wise person with, the ignorant person. And it seems like the ignorant person's life is a lot easier, at least, at first.
It's true. The path of ignorance, it might seem, more appealing at first.
Yeah.
The ignorant person, they live this life of instant gratification, you know. They're chasing after all those fleeting pleasures. They're reacting impulsively to whatever life throws at them. It's like they're a leaf just like blown about by the wind, never really in control of their own destiny.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
It can be, but that's precisely the point Spinoza's making. While that life might seem easier in the moment, it's ultimately a life of suffering, a life of dissatisfaction.
Right, right.
They're constantly at the mercy of their emotions, their desires. They never really find peace, true contentment.
Whereas a wise person, through their commitment to understanding, to living in accordance with, with reason, they cultivate this inner strength, this stability that lets them, go through the tough times in life with more ease, more grace.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're not immune to challenges, to setbacks,
Right.
but they have the tools to navigate them with wisdom, with resilience. They understand that true happiness doesn't come from just avoiding pain, avoiding difficulty. It comes from facing those things
Wow.
with courage, with understanding, seeing those tough times as opportunities to grow, to learn.
So the wise person's living a much more intentional life. Like they're making choices based on what they know is good, is valuable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They're not just reacting to whatever's happening around them.
Yeah.
They're actively, shaping their lives. They're aligning their lives with their values, with their purpose.
And this all circles back to that powerful statement from Spinoza we talked about earlier. The one that says, the human mind cannot be absolutely destroyed with the body,
Yes.
but there remains of it something which is eternal.
Exactly. This is where it all comes together. Spinoza is suggesting that by cultivating our understanding, by living in accordance with reason, we're not just shaping our present experience, we're also nurturing that eternal aspect of ourselves.
It's almost like we're building a legacy that goes beyond our physical lifespan, a legacy of wisdom, of virtue, of love that continues on, that ripples outward even after we're gone.
That's a beautiful way to think about it, and it's a really powerful reminder that our choices, they matter. They matter not just for us, but for the world around us, for generations to come.
Hmm. This whole deep dive has been so thought-provoking. Spinoza, he's tough, but he's also incredibly inspiring. He offers us this vision of what it means to be human that's both grounded in reason, but also filled with this sense of wonder, this sense of possibility.
I couldn't agree more. It's a vision that calls on us to really step into our full potential, to live lives of meaning, of purpose, of joy,
Yeah.
and to leave the world, just a little bit better than we found it.
And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our exploration of Spinoza's ethics. I hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and inspired you to maybe even explore his ideas a bit more on your own. Remember, this path to freedom, to blessedness, it's a journey. It's not a destination. It's about, making those conscious choices every single day to align our lives with what's truly good, what's truly valuable. And as we always say, happy reading.